Good morning, everybody. It is lovely to see you on a beautiful, beautiful winter's day down here in New Zealand. I'm Libby. I am the designer at Truly Myrtle Knitting Patterns, and I'm also the founder of Wardrobe Toolbox. And that is the place to come if you want to learn how to make your sweaters and fit you, and learn a whole lot of other knitting techniques as well. We have a lot of fun. It's a great knitting community, and you can find out more at wardrobetoolbox.com. All right, I've got glasses, and now I'm going to see who's jumping on. I can see everybody coming. This is a live video. I do a live podcast every week on a Thursday morning in New Zealand time, 10 o'clock. It's quite a good time all over the world. It's sort of afternoon time in large parts of the States. It's breakfast time in Australia, and hopefully it's kind of not quite the end of the day. I really must go to bed time in the UK and Europe, but it's lovely to have you with me. I get to chat to you in the chat. So if you're coming in, I can see you all coming now. If you're coming in on Facebook or on YouTube, you can chat to me and I can see your comments. So give me a hello in the chat. I do go out on my Facebook page. I used to be in my Facebook group. We have a fantastic Truly Myrtle Facebook group called The Hangout. And you can bring all your questions about Truly Myrtle patterns over there and ask to your heart's content. There are thousands of people who have knitted your pattern that you're working on before, so they can help you out if you get stuck. And it's also just a good place to come if you want to talk to someone about knitting and nobody else wants to listen in your life and you just need some knitting buddies. We are those people. So come over and join us. Some of you I know are joining me from YouTube. And so we go live on the Truly Myrtle YouTube channel as well. Hey, Barbara, nice to see you. Oh, the sun is shining after several days, grey days in Rangiora. It is absolutely beautiful here today. So much so that I'm wearing my sweatshirt, my little Tui sweatshirt. I was just too hot for a big heavy jumper. Yesterday I wore a big heavy jumper. Today, too hot. It's absolutely beautiful. The sky is blue. The sun is shining. There's not a whisper of wind in the sky. It's a beautiful winter's day. Hi, Sabrina. Nice to see you. Oh, hi, Sharon. You're new. Welcome from Melbourne, Australia. So you're hopefully having your breakfast while you're chatting to me. Hi, Katie from Scotland. It's nice to see you. Oh, there are great knitting buddies in this group. There are, Barbara, and people have made friends across the oceans. I have had stories of people who have, particularly within Wardrobe Toolbox, who have made firm friends, who have visited each other across oceans. And I actually saw a picture of you the other day, Barbara, in all over the world, particularly Wardrobe Toolbox, the group I talked about before. They meet up for little knit nights and knit coffees and stuff like that. And I saw a large group that got together down Christchurch Way here in New Zealand the other day. It's always so nice to see everybody. Although I look at you all and I think, oh, I should be there too. That would be nice. Hi, Jean. It's sunny. Yes, beautiful sunny here. Hi, Susan from Oregon in the USA. And the Brynderwins are open. Yay, finally, Jean. Yes, the Brynderwins are open. They've been shut for so long. All right, well, it's lovely to see you all. Oh, hi, Amanda from Wisconsin. I love all these people all over. I just would like to jump on a plane and come over to see everybody all over the world. But one day I'll do that again. Okay, I thought today I would talk to you about some really helpful tips when you're knitting lace or any sort of repeat, actually, not just lace but also stitch repeats. First of all, can you hear me okay? Because last week I thought my audio might be a bit soft, and maybe because I've just dropped my microphone one too many times, but let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. I can see some thumbs, so hopefully that's good. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you too from New South Wales. It's really nice to see you. Okay, so we got a message the other day at Truly Myrtle. We get lots of messages in to our inbox about, help me with this pattern, I'm stuck, or I don't quite know what to do with this. And Claire, who helps me out, usually answers most of those. And then sometimes she comes through. Here she is here. Hi, Claire. Nice to see you. Oh, there's a whole lot of you jumped on all at one time. Linda. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. She sends me through some of the questions and says, oh, this one's interesting, or this is a good thing to talk about, or, just a little bit, oh, good, audio's varying. All right, maybe I just need to turn myself up somehow. I don't know how to work the microphone. She sends me through questions where they're quite interesting, and she talked to me the other day about one, and I thought, oh, this is a good one to talk to you guys about on the podcast, because Someone was knitting this shawl, which is Mindful, and it's a shawl that I designed a long, long time ago. She's a large crescent shawl. I originally designed her as a one skein shawl, and she's still available as a one skein shawl, but I updated the pattern several years ago to include a larger shawl with 2 skeins. So I use 2 skeins. This is Eden Cottage yarn. This is a silk merino. My favorite silk merinos have a splash of silk. So they have sort of anywhere between up to 30% silk, 10, 20, 25, usually 25, 20, 25, 30% silk are my ultimate favorites, because I think they have just a touch of that sheen and a touch of the drape, and I think it adds to the wool that's in it. And I'd have to sip of my coffee because I'm getting a frog in my throat. Anyway, this is Mindful, so this is the larger version, and she uses 2 skeins, and you can see that she uses a lot of lace. There's all different kinds of lace. There's a lace at the top. She morphs that lace into a more complicated lace, and then at the bottom she goes into a reasonably simple lace with a little piqué edging. The thing about this shawl is that she has lace on the wrong side, so if you are a brand new shawl knitter, you might find her a little bit much because she uses lace on the wrong side, but that's totally up to you, because maybe you are feeling like, yeah, I can do anything, just let me at it, I'd like to have a bash. So never say never. So I wear her, she's just so pretty, and I particularly love this neutral color that I've used for this one because it goes with so many things. So anyway, someone sent in a question because there's a lot of lace in it. I printed out the lace for you, and now I don't know where I've put those things. I bet they've fallen down again. No, where did I print out? I printed out the lace. I'm probably sitting on them. Oh my gracious me. I did a bit of printing. Oh, here it is. Look, it's behind me. Found it. Don't panic. Okay, so I printed out the lace for this one. This is 2 sections of the lace. I just printed out the chart. It's also written instructions, but it does include a chart, and it's helpful to see in the chart what's happening. This is the lace at the top I told you was quite simple, and this is the lace at the bottom that is a little bit more expanded, not the lace on the fringe. So you can see the way this is written. I have a repeat here, so you can repeat everything between those red lines as you're going. Now normally, someone was confused, and it's quite helpful to use stitch markers to mark those repeats. So you can mark as you're going along, you know that those 10 stitches between those markers are always going to be the same as I go around. I brought you a hat because I think this is a good example to think about when you're knitting something like a hat first. So where you've got a stitch repeat like this, so you have a section of a little eyelet section, and then you have the little moss stitch section next to it. I would mark the repeats in my hat. I would put a stitch marker at the beginning and a stitch marker at the end so that it just goes around the hat. Just keep on going around the hat. You're much less likely to make mistakes when you do that because you're only working with a little small section at a time, and your brain gets into gear and you start to recognize, oh, okay, so between those markers, my stitches are going to do this. Blip, blip, knit, 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 purl, yarn over, and you know the little rhythm of it. So hats are a great example to use it. Another one that I brought that's an excellent example to use those stitch markers is my Flory cardigan. At the bottom of Flory, she's a lovely cardigan. She's got quite simple lines to her. At the bottom of Flory, she's just open fronted. She doesn't have any button bands or anything like that. She has that collar that's all built in. She's a slightly more advanced, she is a slightly more advanced knit for someone just because of the construction at the collar, but it's all doable if you just go step by step. Anyway, at the bottom, she has this lace section with a whole lot of nups in it and lace, and that's another great example to use your stitch markers just to mark out your repeats as you're going around, so that you know between my 5 stitches or whatever it is for this little repeat, it's going to be about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to be about 12, I think, for that little repeat. You just mark it out, and then you get to that marker and you just do the same all the way around the body, and it doesn't change. It stays the same through the whole way of the body, so you don't get confused. You know where you're at, and you just follow your way around. One more shawl I've got that is a good example of this is this one, which is Feathers. And Feathers is a long, I made this out of Brooklyn tweed. their light one, Brooklyn Tweed. What's their lighter one called? I've forgotten now. Not is it Loft? I think it might be Loft. Let me know if you can remember. Anyway, this is a long, narrow, skinny shawl. She's a fabulous one. I've made her up in a different yarn too, heavier, and she's sort of dramatic and big and throw all over. Anyway, you start her with this interesting sort of ribbed border, which is actually the lace, including a bit of ribbing, and then she just goes to the lace. But these are fairly basic repeats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 10 stitches, 9 stitches in each repeat, and so you can mark when you cast on, after you cast on and you can see the repeats come, you can say, okay, I'm going to put a marker here, put a marker at the end of the repeat, marker. Use lots of markers as you're working along. You're far less likely to make mistakes as you're going. This one doesn't have lace on the wrong sides. It's lovely pearl back on the wrong side. So she's actually a really nice, easy knit. And you get all the way to the end and you just do the fringe again at the other end. So those 3 are good examples of shawls where our markers are really helpful just to mark out repeats. But this shawl was slightly different. And so somebody might, I think what happened was they were using markers to mark out the repeats, but they're getting themselves in a bit of a tangle. Because what happens on the edge of the shawl, as you can see here, it grows out the outside. And so the repeat, you can see it start to appear here. And then as the stitches get further and further out on either side, you start filling in the gaps with more repeats. So what that means is that you need to keep adding markers so that you keep noticing when the new repeat is coming. So if I look at the edge, you start in the middle at the top. So you've got quite a small little section at the top like this. And then as you go along on both sides, repeats are added on both sides as you're going. So use your markers. They stay the same in the middle, but they just grow. Boom, 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 boom. So grab your markers and keep adding them in. And then you will not get lost. You will stay on track, but you just have to be a little bit alert. This mindful shawl was called mindful because you have to be a little bit of alert anyway, because you're working lace on the wrong side and the right side. That's what gives us all these fabulous eyelets all the way through the lace here. It's wrong side and right side rows. So just slow down, pay attention, and it's a really good opportunity to start practicing reading your knitting. And so when we talk about reading our knitting, what we mean is when we've got stitches on our needles, we can look at them and we can say, all right, I've got a knit, knit, purl, knit, yarn over, knit there. That looks about right. And now my next row, I'm not going to yarn over straight on that one. I need to do another purl maybe, or maybe I yarn over on my yarn over, like in this case. And so you just keep adding on top, but you're reading it as you're going. You know what those stitches are, you anticipate what they're going to be, and you make sure they go in the right place. This shawl is a great opportunity for doing that. So that's mindful, this one here. But the markers will move. They will continue to be added as you're going along, or else you're going to get super confused. Oh, I had another example here of a hat that is a nice example of not having to move your markers and not having to change anything. Is my sister from another Mr. hat. This is one of the hats in that, and you can see very clearly in here what the repeats are going to be. And so you can put your markers on either side of these repeats, and then you just work all the way around your round. And you don't have to worry. It doesn't change. You just slip marker, work the next bit, slip the marker, work the next bit. It will speed you up and it will calm you down. I have a couple of other examples of where markers move. But what I thought I'd do first, well, let me have a look at your comments. And then I thought I'd show you some of the markers I really like. Okie doke, here we go. A whole bunch of you. Oh, nice to see you, Brenda. How are you? Hi, Donna from the UK. It's nice to see you. And Sarah from Adelaide. Oh, hi, Carmel. How are you going in Hastings? What's the weather doing down there? It's been pretty horrendous, hasn't it? What cardigan or sweater pattern of mine would I recommend for beginning with circulars? I have to say that the majority of my sweater designs are easier to knit than you might anticipate. I don't like an overly complicated knit. I like to knit to relax. I like a bit of a challenge, but I find I get a lot of that in the designing. And then when I come to knitting, I just like to take a deep breath and have a knit and enjoy myself. So a lot of my knits, they might look more complicated, but they're not so tricky to make, which is reassuring. The one I'm wearing is a good one. This is a really nice one to start with. And it's also quite good because I think, you have to master. Let's talk about what's in it just very quickly. We've cast on at the shoulder and you do short rows. And so learning short rows is a really good thing to do. And I explain how to do short rows in there, but it's definitely all of the things I'm going to talk about we do in Wardrobe Toolbox. So we have lessons every month and I go over various things, and there are 4, how many years now? 20, 21, 22, 23. There's 4, we're in the 5th year of content now. So there's 4 and a bit years, 4.5 years of content in there. So there's lessons on all manner of things. So all of these things I'm going to tell you, you'll find in Wardrobe Toolbox, and I open the doors for that in March and September. And even if you just come in for a while, you'll learn such a lot in there. So we start at the top. We've got some short rows. We don't really have to do anything in terms of shaping. We do some shaping around the neck to create the neck. And we work down and we just do a little bit of shaping at the underarm before we go into the body. And there's just a simple line that follows down all the way through the body. And then we get on to doing the body. We do the back, then we do one front, then we do the other front, and we join them underneath the neck, work down to the armholes, and then we join the whole thing in the round, and you knit down to the bottom. When you get to the bottom, I have this little hem here, and it has a longer tail at the back than the front. It sort of scoops like that. I'm wearing my new trousers today that I made. I'll show you. My mum says I should get a chair so I can stand up and show you things. Yeah, I'm wearing my new trousers that I made, and I've got this little, see how it's got longer at the back? Oh, it's a bit tricky to see when I'm leaning. It's longer at the back than the front, but it's quite nice with my trousers because it sits up at the front. And so you do short rows to create that at the bottom. And then you work a purl row, change colours, and do this flipped hem. And then you'll have to go back and stitch it up. You pick up the arms, you work down the arms with some decreases, you get to the bottom, and you do the same thing at the bottom with the hem. It's quite a nice simple knit. Now, if you want something that's a little more decorative, has more colours in it, or you want to do changes and things, then I have to say a lot of people have made my floozy cardigan as their first cardigan. A lot of people. What else is a really nice simple one to try? Maudie is another good one to try. I think a lot of them are. Ginger Bliss. Ginger Bliss has got a little bit more complication with the shoulders, but not too much, and the sleeve. But Ginger Snap, that's a really good jumper that people have loved. I'd sort of start there. Oh, I tell you another one. Floozy 2 or Wave Crest. Those are also really, really satisfying. You'll have a lot of fun, and they're not overly tricky. Those ones, they're yoked sweaters. The one I've got on my stand over here is called Sesha, and she doesn't look as much on the stand as she does on your body, but when you wear her, oh my gosh, she feels fantastic. She's got that lovely A-line shaping. She's got a sleeve that stops at the elbow, and she has a raglan. She's pretty easy construction with the raglan, really. And the scoop neck, and that one's quite a good one too. There's a lot. There's really, and Timely is the other one. A lot of people have made Timely as a first cardigan. A lot of people have made Timely so many times. Some people have made Timely like 3 times, 5 times. So many Timelies. I don't think you can go too wrong. The best idea is probably to grab a picture of one you like, pop it into the Hangout, the Truly Myrtle Hangout over on Facebook, in our Facebook group, and ask, do you think this is a good one? You could say, I could do these, I could do this, or I haven't made a garment before, I'm keen on this, or this is the kind of shawls I've done before, or hats, or whatever, and what do you reckon? And people will help you, I think, there. Okay, Amy, could you please explain how to yarn over after a purl and before a knit? Mine always look and feel a bit funny when I'm purling on the yarn over on the next row. Yeah, I did a whole lesson about that, actually, inside Wardrobe Toolbox with yarn overs and lace, and making those work out. Experiment would be my advice, because you can do a double wrapped yarn over. Like you can bring, so let's say, what did you say? You've got a purl and before a knit, and so your yarn is at the front of your work looking at you, and then the next row you want to knit. So you could either just start knitting, and the yarn over is created just by moving the yarn to the back to start knitting, not under the needle, over the needle. But the problem with that is you get quite a small yarn over. The alternative is to bring your yarn to the back, as if you're going to knit, and then wrap it around your needle like a normal yarn over. That one is slightly bigger than your average yarn over. So the challenge, rather than the creation of the yarn over, because if they're all going to be just the same kind of yarn over, you'll be fine, just decide one or the other. But if you're going to try and match a yarn over after a purl and a yarn over before a purl, let's see, a knit and a purl and then a purl and a knit, that's where your challenge is going to come in, because you're going to be doing those maneuvers slightly differently. And your yarn overs could end up being a bit smaller on one side than the other. My Kate cardigan, I think that's one of the things in Kate cardigan with the panels down the front, and it happens a lot in patterns where you're trying to have symmetry. So I would experiment between those ones. I think that it'll depend on your style of knitting, with your continental, with your English knitter, and just what you like. But that is where doing a tiny swatch like this, you don't have to knit much, just do a little bit and just practice some of those yarn overs and see what you think. But yeah, but you will always have a slight difference between them. It's never going to be identical. That's the biggest problem. So it's figuring out how to make it as identical as possible without, making it identical. That's really the thing. You might have to pull yarn harder, pull tight to kind of close up the yarn over. You might decide to incorporate an Eastern purl so that you're purling the opposite way around, so your purl uses less yarn before the yarn over. It's all good fun, but it is a bit of an experiment. Barbara says, my stitch markers are like little jewels on my knitting, and they make life less stressful when I'm knitting lace. They do indeed. I agree 100%, Barbara. Hi Marina, lovely to see you. Sabrina says, I've knitted both Mindful, which is this one, the one I showed you with all the wrong side lace, and Feathers, which is this one. I don't think I even said the name. Thank you, Sabrina. And Feathers, this one, which I did in the Brooklyn Tweed Loft. She's knitted those twice, and they're both lovely shawls, of course. Yeah, and the thing about Feathers that I really like is you can totally change the look of her. Was it last week where I talked about yarn and changing the look of a garment depending on the yarn you use? I think I did. This is another example, or they all are, but this particularly is another example of a shawl. I knitted it in wholesome woolen spun yarn, and it's a look. I love the look, but I think you could try and knit her. I've seen her knitted up in silk merinos, and she just will be an entirely different shawl. She will be really, again, polished is the word I use. She will be just glamorous, regal, scooper over your neck. She'll drape beautifully. You can add a bit of extra length into her if you want. I used a sport weight yarn for this, but you could just knit until you've used half your yarn and then knit back. I mean, the other thing is, what I would do if you were going to use some fingering and you had only a certain amount that you had to use, weigh your ball before you start. Knit the lace at the bottom before you move into the body pattern, and then weigh your ball again and make a note of how much yarn you used for the border. Then knit the body until you have that amount you used for that first border left and a little bit more for your bind off, and then start the lace again on the other end. And that way you can use all your yarn. You shouldn't run out, and then you can just have this lovely long shawl. You can also make a wider or narrower depending on how you want it to be. The only thing I would say about that, that's what I was going to say. The only thing I'd say about that is it's really helpful to get a pair of scales for your knitting corner that are in grams, 1 gram, not the 5 gram jobbies. That you really want it down to the gram, because 5 grams is quite a lot of yarn depending on the yarn you're using. So find some nice kitchen scales. I saw some cool ones the other day that you can take the top off and flip it over and it turns into a bowl. That would be so helpful for yarn. But go to the 1 gram if you can. Brenda said, I'm picking up the second sleeve cap on my Ginger Bliss while I'm watching. Oh, nice, Brenda. Hi, Dina from Melbourne. Nice to see you. Claire says, in the diamond chart there are... Oh, okay, right. In the diamond chart, thank you for reminding me, Claire. She said there are slip to knit purl. Oh, right. So there are double decrease here. See that there? There's a double decrease in that chart in the middle, which means markers need moving on some rows. So when you do this row, and you do a yarn over, double decrease, yarn over. I'm trying to see if there's another one at the bottom. It could also happens down here, yarn over, double decrease, yarn over. You're actually going to be eating into, so I think that's where it is that she means. You're actually, oh no, it's here, look. It's here. That one. I think you probably mean that one, Claire, don't you? Because it's right hard up against that border, that repeat. And so that's slip two, knit one, slip two, knit one, pass those 2 slip stitches over for that centered repeat, is going to use a stitch on this side of the marker. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to take out your marker, do that repeat, do that little stitch, which happens every time at the end of that repeat, and then pop your marker back and then do your yarn over. But then make sure your stitch marker doesn't slip underneath that yarn over. So that's where I would watch it. Here it is again. It happens up here again on that row at the top. I'm trying to see if it happens anywhere else. Those are the ones I would watch out for. But so just make a note to yourself. If you can see this, the marker needs to be moved, move the marker. This is, like I said before, it's a really good idea of reading your knitting. Linda, what's your jersey? This one, Tui. I'm wearing Tui. Maxine said, Rebel Rebel is fun and easy. Oh, yes, Rebel Rebel. You see, there are so many that are just fun and they're super easy to do. Rebel Rebel is a little drop shoulder like this one. It's a cardigan, and Rebel Rebel is one of those garments that suits everyone I've seen put her on. It's so cool. Some of you might want to put a little bustard in her, but because she already flips up a little bit at the front, she sort of has that look to her like that. And if you are quite full busted and small in the shoulders, you might find that it wants to rise quite a lot more. Or if you're just full busted, that you'll find that your boobs take up more room over the top, brings the cardigan up. So you might want to chuck a little bust dart in the side just to lower that front and give yourself enough room there, enough fabric to go over your boob. But she is a great cardigan. She's a great cardigan. I really like wearing that one. I've got all my cardigans. I've got this big pile of knitwear over there. I keep grabbing them and not putting them back properly. Marina said, I've made a timely and I'll be making more. I've got 2 floozies and a floozy cardigan. Oh, you've got 2 floozy cardigans and a floozy too, maybe. I love them. The fit is so great. Oh, that's really good, Marina. Oh, good, Amy. That makes sense. Sabrina says, I knitted my first feathers using Sikkim. Absolutely beautiful. Yak silk merino single spun. It is so soft and gorgeous. Really and truly, it would be amazing. Sikkim is a yarn by Yarn Happy Go Knitty here in New Zealand, but a lot of dyers carry that base all over the world. Yak silk merino. That's what I use for that. That has yak in it, and it's not actually Sikkim, but it's the same sort of base. Has a bit of yak in it. And it gives it a dark halo, that lovely darkness. I think I showed you that last week, that base with the dark halo. So that would be beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And it just has a slight woolliness to it, but the slinkiness of the silk. So that's a good one to think about. The choice of yarn really changes the pattern. It's magical. Yeah, definitely does. Yes, brilliant. Good, Claire. That was good. Good. Thank you. Goodness you were here. Okay, so that's mindful. So we have our stitch markers. We know to put them in to watch our repeats. We know if we're not going to do any increases at the side or any increases or double yarn overs, double decreases, nothing like that in our pattern. Our stitch markers should stay in the place we put them all the way through our round or our row, depending on whether we're knitting flat or in the round. I have over the years, I've tried so many stitch markers. And I lose them. I don't know about you. I lose stitch markers all the time. It drives me crazy because I have favorites and then I lose them. What I do is I keep them on this in my knitting pouch, in my little notions pouch. I have a few little, ring closure things, and I just keep all my markers on those, and it makes it really easy to see the one I want. And I do have favorites for particular things. I have to say, these, I think, are probably my favorite markers that I've ever used. They don't suit all needles because they're quite little. I'll take it off and show you. You just have to scooch around to the part where it's open. Oh, I have to go this way. Now I've put so many markers on it this morning that I'm almost running out of room on one side because I've got a little marker. There we go. Oops, it is. I'm going to drop them all over the show now. These markers, I'll just shut it so they don't all fall off. I'm losing markers as we speak, you guys. Yeah, I'll put those on that side. Right, I'll hold that. These are my favorite markers. They are glass markers that I got from Hani Huli here in New Zealand, and they're blown with a little ball on top. I just love those markers. They are so nice to use. You just slip nicely from one needle to another. Your yarn doesn't get caught up in them. There's no gap in the metal for the yarn to get caught in. That's something that really bugs me, is when my yarn gets stuck in my marker. I used to have a whole bunch that had a little bead on a wire. Here they are here, these ones. And I sometimes use these, but the problem with them is, and you can make these yourself, you just have to be careful that you're closing the little D-ring, the little ring. You can just get D-rings, I think, and just close them up and put a bead on it. But it's a good idea to glue that bead into place over the join, because this one's come apart and you can see it. You probably can't see, but there's a little join and my yarn will get stuck in it. We had a jeweler that's come on to Wardrobe Toolbox a couple of times, and she's talked to us about making all sorts of fun things for jewelry, because we talk about all sorts of crazy things over there on our masterclasses. And she recommended that when you're making the little stitch markers or anything to do with jewelry, and you're using those little rings, that instead of, you don't pull them open, you twist them like that, and then you twist them shut, and that way you avoid the gap. That was something I learned. I didn't realize that, because you pull them open and then you really can't quite get them back in the same place. So when you've got them like that and you've got your little tools and you want to open it, go like that, or like that, and then you push them back into place. And then I would recommend, if you're going to make them, which you can, I would just put my bead on, and then I would just somehow put a little bit of adhesive to get it over that little join, because I think that keeps it shut. Anyway, I've got some new ones that I've been trying recently. These ones are some of my favorites as well. These little hexagons. I really like the little hexagon ones. They're pretty groovy. Little silver hexagons. Some of them are actually silver. But I got these new ones recently, and they're little triangles. I got big triangles and I got small triangles. They came in a set from Coco Knits, and they're quite good. They're pretty good. I like the small ones, but the big ones I've been using on some big needles, and they're okay. They can get a little bit in the way if I want to do something fancy around the stitch marker. They can get in my way, but they're pretty good. I got these ones at August Nights. I got these ones at Knit and Gather in our goodie bag. I really like those. They're pretty groovy, the little metal ones. If you're trying to do something in a really tight corner, they can be a little bit annoying, but actually they're pretty cool. I quite like them. They're very sturdy markers. But these are also some of my favorites, and I seem to have lost any small ones I ever had. And these are little rubber rings, and those are super good. They're super flexible, and those ones I think I got from Karen Templar, for the lady who made fringe bags. Yeah, I got those from her years and years and years ago. I really like those. I've got all sorts on here. There's all sorts of stitch markers. The other thing that's really, really good to have in your stitch marker stash are some removable stitch markers. And I have these ones, the little plastic ones, and I have these ones, which are the little safety pin ones with the little ring at the bottom. The plastic ones used to be my favorite, but actually I like these ones now. I really like those ones. They're so easy to use. I use them for things like if you need to mark a shoulder, you need to mark where you started your shoulder because you want to measure down an armhole. I'd use something like that to put in at the top, so you've got something to count for or measure when you're going. But yeah, it's a good way to keep them. And then I was given this the other day, and it's so cute, this little meringue. Cutest little thing. It still hasn't been opened enough times to not be stiff, but there we go, I need to open it that way. But it's a little pouch like that, and you can actually keep a few stitch markers in it, and that is an excellent idea just to pop in the project bag you're working on. So if you grab all the stitch markers you need for that current project, pop them in something like this little meringue and close it up, then if you're on the run and you don't want to take a big heavy notions pouch, mine's pretty big and heavy, my notions pouch, you can just take what you need in their little meringue. I thought that was very, very cute. All right, let's have a little look. they're your favorite stitch markers too. Your favorite markers. Yeah, the little glass ones. I got them from Hani Huli. I don't know if she's having them made anymore, but they really, I can only find one there. That's so sad because they're so beautiful. The hexagons are my favorite too, says Barbara. Yeah, they're good, those little hexagons, aren't they? They're really good. Shona. Barbara said, I bought the Cocoa Knits ones that are a slight spiral, and I found they catch on the knitting. Those ones would actually be excellent. The little spiral ones, you could use those as a removable marker too. That's probably what I would use those for, because you can just whip them in and out of a stitch, and they're really handy removable markers. If you want to do something like you've cast on a ton of stitches and you're just not really sure, you're counting and you keep being interrupted or you're losing count up small numbers and put a removable stitch marker in, like a coil or one of the little hangers, and then you know, okay, well that's 50, and now I've got, that's 50, or whatever denomination you want to measure. That can be helpful. Anyway, those are markers. I wanted to show you just a couple more shawls where you're going to have to think about moving the markers if you've got the markers. So we've already realized markers are the way to go for our stitch repeat, for our pattern repeats. But we know to watch out in our patterns where we have something that goes over, where we have things that grow at the side, and so we're going to have to add more markers as we're going along. And we've got double repeats right next to a repeat, which eat into the repeat. We know we have to move the marker in that case. I've got a couple more shawls to show you where you're going to have to move markers as well. And one of those is Dirty Lace. This is an extremely popular shawl. Lots of people have knitted this shawl. She is long. She uses a bunch of skeins of yarn. You can make her in all sorts of wild colors. This one I used sock yarn. She's another great one for anything sort of, you just really mix up the yarn base. It will change the look of the shawl. But she is so much fun to wear. So I just wrap her around myself. You can throw it over your shoulders. You could do it. I could do it one more wrap actually around me. But anyway, I'll just leave her like that for now. But so she's a really fun shawl. But the way she's knitted, you cast her on, and then she's knitted on the bias, and so she goes like that. She looks like that as she's working. The stitch count does not change through the pattern. It always stays the same, but it goes like that. And so if we are looking at it here, I printed out, this is the lace, one of the lace sections, so you can see how she's moving up to the side as you're working. And so that repeat that you have in the middle, which has all our double decreases and stuff in the middle, so the stitch markers are still going to work pretty well for your repeats. The problem is, as you're working, you're going to eat into one side, you're going to eat into that repeat, and then you're going to grow the one on the other side. So yes, you can use stitch markers, but remember, you're going to want to add them and remove them, and add them and remove them, and add them and remove them. And if some of you will find that fine, others of you might find that just annoying, and you just rather read your knitting. So if you're reading your knitting happily, then just do that. But the markers in this one, they're going to move. The other one, I thought I'd show you where the markers will move as well, is Queenie. And anything like Queenie, or anything like that one as well, that goes up on an angle. But Queenie is she's a lovely shawl I put out for Wardrobe Toolbox years ago, and she's a big triangular shawl. She's got one of those scoops like that in her, like this. This is what she looks like when she's laid out like that. So she sort of scoops up on the edge, and she has this lovely leafy pattern in the middle like that, and then with a central spine, and then she has this lace at the bottom, and you can see I've used mohair and I've used a bit of spin cycle, so that just changes up the texture of the bottom. It's pretty fun. I quite like that different texture. And so she looks like that in the middle. Now what happens is we start at the top, and we come into that situation again where we're growing on the edges, but because this is a triangular shawl, we're also growing in the middle. So you will find, I think this is a good one to really read your knitting. Repeats might be handy as you get into the bigger part of the markers, but really practice reading what your knitting is doing, because you're going to grow, see how it grows, and these repeats just move further and further out, and then new repeats will come And then the same on the outside. New repeats just come all the time as you're working down. And it's the same for the lace at the bottom. It all just grows, constantly grows. So I printed out the chart for that one as well. And these charts look a bit like that. So you've got your central spine, you stitch up the middle, that's the central spine. But you'll see these repeats that I've got, and they change all over the show. I have got written instructions for all of these as well, but I thought the charts are easier to show you. But as it grows out in the middle, it's growing. And as it grows out on the outside, these you'll just be adding and adding repeats in the middle and on the outside. When you get to the lace border, I had a little sheet that I put out for Wardrobe Toolbox. When I released the pattern, they got a bunch of different stuff about this shawl, heaps of different little lessons about the lace and stuff like that. But one of the things we did here was I gave them these tips for knitting the lace border. I've talked about yarn for the lace border with this spin cycle and the mohair. Here I used a Rowan mohair and this lovely, the hand spun would be beautiful in here for the spin cycle if you want to do that. I said try swatching your ideas before you cast on, just to make sure the colors work together. Does the lace get lost in the variegation of your yarn or texture? And sometimes we don't know how things will work until we see them knitted up. So that I would recommend that for anybody anyway. I've also said here that Queenie's border is ideal for Lifelines, and Lifelines isn't something I've talked about yet, but Lifelines for any of these shawls are really, really good to use. And I said to add them at the end of each of these mohair sections in this one, and so that you know okay, I'm right. I'm going to add a section. I'm going to go through the mohair because ripping back mohair is pretty yucky. So add it at the end of the mohair. Everything's good. Stitch counts right. We're good. Right. Fuel. Put in a lifeline. Do the next bit. Put in a lifeline. Do the next bit. And it'll save you ripping back too far if you spot a mistake in any of your lace rows. And then I said stay alert for increases on the wrong side rows. Missing a sneaky increase will throw your stitch count and the lace repeat won't work. So you just being a little bit alert. I've said to use markers to separate the 12 stitch lace repeats. There won't be a full repeat at the edges straight away, so keep an eye out for one appearing and add another marker when it does. You'll notice that on some rows, the lace repeat ends with a yarn over. Choose markers that don't wriggle under the yarn overs. Now for Lifelines, I thought I'd show you my Chiaogu needles. I don't know how many other needles do this. You can add lifelines in different ways, but the Chiaogu needles are quite good. A lifeline is like a thread of very, very smooth cotton would work. Some people use like a dental floss, that kind of thing, of something fine, and you thread it through on the last row that you knit or afterwards through all your stitches, just so that if you have to rip back, those stitches are all caught live. Either on usually a bit of thread. You can use those silicone cords. That'd be another good thing. But the Chiaogus have got that little hole. See here? That hole there. And they've also got the little hole here. They've got two little holes. And if you thread yarn or dental floss or something through that hole and have a long length of it at the end, and you knit the next row, it will automatically catch on that dental floss row. Either dental floss or whatever it is will catch through that. Will go through those stitches so that you can catch the yarn. Knit Pro do as well. Oh, good. Yeah. So that's something to think about. It's a nice, quick way of putting in a lifeline. You don't have to do it like that. You can just carefully use a wool needle and go through each of your stitches. But if you've got 400 stitches, it's going to take you a wee while to do that. Janet says, why is it called Dirty Lace? This one. This was my first one. Oh, actually, it wasn't the first one. I made a shawl called Electra, and she had a section of lace in it that was knitted on the wrong side. And so it created a garter background to the lace, and that really appeals to me because I particularly love texture in my knitting. And so I just thought it was dirty. It was dirty lace because it had a knit side on the wrong side rather than a sleek purl. There's no pearls in this. There's a couple of pearls because you do these enormous yarn overs. So you have to do a couple of pearls with these enormous yarn overs, but otherwise it's all knitted. It's just knit, and yarn overs and knit two togethers and SSKs. But so I decided, actually, I want a whole shawl. I want an entire shawl where I don't have purlback rows, where I have this dirty lace. And so that's why I created this one, Dirty Lace. She's so much fun. So much fun to knit. Oh yes, Christine makes a very good point. Don't catch the stitch markers in your lifelines. So what if you are putting your lifelines all the way through all your stitches and you have stitch markers in there, don't knit through the stitch marker. You have to make sure that what you might want to do is take out the stitch marker and put in a removable stitch marker and then put them back in the real ones on the next row. Or if you're going through just with your needle, just catch the stitch, your wool needle, just catch the stitch and not the marker, because otherwise it's going to go into it. I actually accidentally did that the other day. I was doing some sort of increase. Anyway, I caught a little black rubber marker in my knitting. So we all do it. And I thought, oh, drat. And I actually cut the marker. I cut it out. So that's another way I can lose my markers, because I just cut it off. Anyway, everybody, hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you got some ideas of ways just to make your knitting life a little bit easier. And if you are going to attempt to use these markers just to make things a bit more smooth for you, so that you can speed up and not be ripping back so much all the mistakes, then it's worth a bash. But there are some little tips and tricks just to know when you are using them. But the main thing is that reading your knitting really is the main thing. If you can start, as you're knitting, looking at the stitches and saying, okay, well, that's a knit. And on the wrong side, when I come back to it, that's what it looks like. And when I knit 3 rows, that's what it looks like. And when I do a yarn over, that's what it looks like. And that's what it looks like when I pick it up on the next one. And starting to really recognize what the stitches are that you've created is the best thing you can do for your knitting. Eleanor said, the first lifeline I ran it through the stitch markers too, and I learned to leave them out. Yeah, it was good you remind me about that, because I totally had forgotten to tell you that. Okay, everybody, have a really, really lovely week. I will see you same time. Actually, will I see you next week? I think I might not see you next week. I think I might see you the week after. It's school holidays here, and I've got and university holidays, and everybody is home. And so what I might do is I might just have next Thursday off, the podcast, and then I'll see you the following Thursday. And I have a new pattern coming for you fairly soon. I wanted to reshoot the photos for that. I wasn't happy with the old photos, and I want to make a skirt. I've cut the skirt out. I'm going to make a skirt to go with it. I have an idea in my head of what to wear it with. So I'm going to do that and do photos, and then sometime in July I will give you a new pattern. So next week I won't see you, but I will see you the week after. So have a lovely couple of weeks. Do heaps of knitting. Enjoy whatever weather the world is throwing at you. And I will see you soon. See you later, everybody. Happy knitting. Bye.